Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Enzo Maresca has spoke out about adding players to the current Club World Cup squad. We finally have more of a roadmap on who's playing who and the route to the final. Not only that, but we have updates regarding Nicolas Jackson, Garnacho, Fofana, and Jamie Gittens. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Kieran Gill has reported that Enzo Maresca has said he won't be adding Wesley Fofana, nor is he planning on bringing in anyone from back home for the next Club World Cup games. He says Wes is here because he's trying to be with us, to recover with us, but there is no chance he can be involved in the squad. At the moment, there is no plan to bring in other players. Now, I'm kind of glad that he's clarified this, because at the moment, Chelsea's squad is kind of split into two. You have a team at home at Cobham that are trying to rest, recover, and also players that aren't going to be involved in next season that Chelsea are looking to offboard and loan and sell. And within those is Wesley Fofana. Obviously, Chelsea are at the States. They're playing the Club World Cup. We're going into the round of 16 this Saturday where we play Benfica. It's a very big game because now the competition is heating up, and later in the video we're going to go over the roadmap because more of it has been filled out and it's become very, very interesting, so make sure you keep watching. Now, in regards to Wesley Fofana, he's saying that he's here, because he's trying to be with us and to recover with us, and that's perfectly fine. It looks like Wesley Fofana doesn't really have the legs to do an entire season, whether that's because he's gone against medical advice like he did this season with his injury, or because he's just that type of player that's going to play a certain percentage of the season and not a full every single game, like a Aspilicueta who's going to play every single minute type of player. And that's perfectly fine. Every player is different. They have to be managed differently. Just look at what Enzo Maresca has done with Romeo Lavia. We know that he's going to play between 45 to 65 minutes, really, and then he's going to come off. He's going to come on to do his job, and that's the type of player he is. He's fantastic when he does it, but we also know he hasn't got the legs to play every single minute of every single match. Plus, with our midfield specifically, we're quite stacked, and there's going to be a heavy rotation. Now, I'm glad that he's clarified this because there is a break point where you can add new players to the squad. So he's just basically saying we're going to do what we can with the current squad. That's what we're doing. He doesn't want to sort of complicate things, doesn't want to bring anyone else in. It doesn't look like he's going to be sending anyone else home. So I'm quite glad that he's covered this and basically said, look, Wes is just trying to recover, get back. He can't be involved in the squad because he's just nowhere near ready, and we want to save him for later on. Maybe he gets some minutes in the preseason, or maybe he's slowly introduced into the new Premier League season. Either or, I'm happy with that. I think that is a very smart move from Enzo Maresca. I think it's very clever to just basically say, this is who we're playing, this is who we've got, this is what we're doing, and the people back home are there for a reason. We're not going to start messing around, because then think about it. If they're at Cobham and they get brought across for the next stage of the Club World Cup, they have a long flight, they then have to climatise, then they have to train, and then they have to kind of get used to that whole setup and the system just to potentially play one game and then go back home. Obviously, we hope we go further in the competition. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. Obviously, we're going to try and win every game, right? But could you imagine being that player or that couple of players? That long haul flight, you settle in, you start training, you get used to being playing again, you play one game, and then we've got to go back home now. It just seems like a massive waste of time. So there are a lot of sides to this. It would be nice, if Enzo Maresca was like, actually, there's a couple of players that are back home we could really do with right now. Maybe you Petrovic or any other players that are still left back at home. I don't know whether Renato Vega is there. I believe he is because his loan has finished. Players like that would be really handy. But at the same time, I totally understand why he's not bringing anyone else in. Obviously, with us making signings as well, that would be like a gateway to be able to bring those players in as well. But as of right now, it's Liam Delap, Mamadou Sarr, and obviously Santos has come back from loan, and they're already there and playing. So it doesn't make any sense to bring anyone else in. So I totally back that, but I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. What are your viewpoints on Maresca saying, we're not going to bring anyone else in for the rest of the remainder of the Club World Cup? Do you think that's fair because of the travels and logistics of it? Or do you feel like Enzo Maresca should be utilising some of those players back at Cobham? Sky Carver has reported that Chelsea have earned up to £28 million for attending the Club World Cup, £3 million for 2 group stage wins, and £5.5 million for getting into the round of 16. Now, I think that this is just over £30 million now. I think is what it's finally calculated at, which I find hilarious because we know that the Club World Cup was a big money earner for a lot of these clubs. I think we've got something like 20-something million just for entering the competition, and then obviously the bonuses for winning and drawing games and going through to the latter stages. And the more you go through, the more money you earn, right? It works like that in every other tournament, but the Club World Cup, there is a lot of money at stake. What makes me laugh about this is Chelsea have already covered what they've spent on Liam Delap. And that's amazing, right? We spent 30 million on Liam Delap. We've covered that already. And he's already got an assist and a goal. So like, it seems like an absolute perfect windstorm of like, we spent some money before the Club World Cup, for the Club World Cup, to have a player in to come in and help us in that tournament. He's come with a goal and an assist, and we've won the games and gone through with the entry money as well. We've actually made our money back. So we're at a pot, like a net nothing. You know, we've not spent anything essentially for Liam Delap. So he's paid for himself in like 3 games, which is absolutely wild when you think about it. But there's more on the Club World Cup. We finally have a roadmap of like the road to the final, more of the teams that are in it. I want to kind of go through, there's a couple of teams missing, but go through who they potentially could be, because I think it's very, very interesting. And I just wanted to kind of mention to you that we've actually made our money back for Liam Delap, and earning nearly 30 million or just over 30 million in 3 games in a competition is absolutely wild. So now we have Chelsea's side of the Club World Cup draw, now includes Inter Milan and Fluminense. I think that's how you say it, or Fluminense. My apologies if I got that wrong. So when you look at the bottom, you've still got 4 teams that can go into it. I'm going to touch on that, you know, because these games are played tonight, I believe. You've got Real Madrid and Salzburg, both on 4 points in their group. And I think it's Al Hilal on 2 points on their group. So it's very, very interesting because Madrid and Salzburg play each other. So it could see, you know, we would expect a Real Madrid and a Salzburg to both go through, right? If you're just kind of looking at it on paper. However, there's been some upset results throughout this competition so far. So it'd be very interesting to see which of those 3 teams do go through. We could see a Real Madrid and an Al Hilal. We could see a Salzburg, Al Hilal, and no Real Madrid, which would really mix things up. And then the other side, that are, you know, teams that are waiting to come in, is Juventus and City, both on 6 points, and the two teams in their group, both on 0 points. They're pretty much, well, they are guaranteed to go through. So we know 2 of those games are going to be Juventus and Man City. I don't know what side they will go to, but then you'll have, essentially, Man City will go one side, Juventus will go the other, and then for the remainder 3 out of Al Hilal, Real Madrid and Salzburg, they'll also be split as well. So you could see on Chelsea's side at the bottom there, a Real Madrid, Man City that have to play each other. You could see a Salzburg and Juventus. You could see, Juventus, Real Madrid, and then on the other side, the opposites of those fixtures. But when we look at this, Chelsea have a really favourable route. We've got Benfica in the round of 16. We're then going to play the winners of Palmeiras and Botafogo. So, you know, let's play the easiest route, right? Let's say on paper it's Botafogo, right? I'm not saying that there is a massive difference. I feel like they're very competitive teams, but I don't really want to play Palmeiras because I feel like Estaval will absolutely tear us apart. So let's say we get Botafogo and then we beat those. The semis is either going to be one of those, 2 of those teams that go through from the group. So it could be like a Juve and a Salzburg, for example. It could be City, Madrid. We don't know yet. But the other side of our branch is Inter Milan and Fluminense. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologise. The winner of that, let's say Fluminense go through, and then they've got potentially Real Madrid, Juve, City, or a Salzburg, right? Or potentially Al Hilal if they do go through, right? So we won't be facing a team from that section of the branch until the semis, and at that point, it's 2 games. Anything can happen in knockout football. But then when you look at the other side, you've got PSG into Miami, Flamengo, Bayern Munich. I don't know that team with the M in their logo, so I apologise. I can't remember what they're called, but they've got Dortmund. And then obviously the remainders that go through. This is really getting exciting, and I know a lot of people from the outside looking in just don't really care about the Club World Cup, and that's fine, you're entitled to that. But for teams that are in it, this is getting really exciting, especially with tonight's games being played that kind of solidify the last teams to go into the round of 16 and where they're going to be placed based on goal difference and the wins, etc., because that makes a big difference in terms of where they go. It's going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, Chelsea are playing on the 28th. The other half of our branch are playing on the 30th. And then the other side on the 5th of July, and then all being played on the 5th of July, which is quite strange. And then again, semi-finals on the 4th of July, 5th of July for the other side. Yeah, it just gets all of a sudden more cramped. I'm really looking forward to this. I feel like even if Chelsea go out, I'm still going to watch to see who wins, because I think that this is going to be a really interesting tournament. And I feel like as the tournament's gone on and as the group stages have gone on, and yes, you've got the outside noise about, you know, some stadiums not selling tickets, you know, the quality of the teams, the shock results. I feel like more and more people are starting to watch it, and it's doing its job. More and more people are starting to get a bit more interested because of the shock results, because that we are selling out tickets now, and like the teams that are involved, there is a big variety within these 32 teams that are now being culled down to the round of 16, which is awesome. To be fair, and again, I totally get it if your team isn't in it. Obviously, Chelsea are, so that's why we care about it. We want to go as far as we can. But I want to know your opinion based on that route, based on the whole roadmap so far. Who do you think is going to go through on tonight's games to go into the round of 16? Out of Salzburg, City, Juve, Al Hilal, and Madrid. Out of those 5, which 4 do you think are going through? Where do you think they're going to be on the routes? And how far do you think Chelsea can realistically go? Do you think that we can go all the way to the end? Do you think we have a chance of winning this trophy? Do you feel like we can go out the semis? Very curious to know your thoughts in terms of how you think this is going to play out for Chelsea and how the actual competition is going to play out. As this has gone on more, have you cared more about it, or are you still on the fence, or do you just still not care and you're only watching it for Chelsea? Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea maintained their price for Nicolas Jackson. When Chelsea called for Ekitike, the answer was 100 million euros. I'm not saying that Jackson is the same, but Chelsea would want important money. Impossible for Italian clubs at current conditions. Chelsea won't sit at the table for £40 million. This is very interesting because it's been previously reported that Nicolas Jackson and Noni Madueke are not untouchable and Chelsea would listen to good offers, right? Now we know that Arsenal and Chelsea have had talks about Noni Madueke. Chelsea tabled an offer of £50 million and Arsenal went, too much for us, but we might come back for this later in the window. Fair enough. So we know the price tag for Noni Madueke in terms of what Chelsea would be happy with, £50 million. It's interesting that they wouldn't even listen to offers of £40 million for Nicolas Jackson. Now, I like what Chelsea are doing here. They're saying, look, Hugo, you want 100 million euros for Hugo? We don't want to pay that. That's wild. It's 84 million pounds. So, if an Italian club wants to come in and get Nicolas Jackson, who is still part of the project, who, yes, has had a very turbulent time at Chelsea in recent months, right? You know, this season, let's say, in terms of form, in terms of attitude on the pitch, etc. He's still very much part of Chelsea's plans. They don't want to sell him, but if the right number is on the table, they are willing to listen to offers. Now, we bought him for 32 million pounds, sorry. So 40 million, yes, 8 million profit. They aren't going to listen to that. Fair enough. Fair enough. It would be very interesting to know what that price would be for Nicolas Jackson. Do they want something like 60, 70 million euros for him? Is that going to be the number that makes them go, okay, well, now we're listening because that's doubling our money? Or are they basically saying that he's priceless unless it's something that we cannot turn down, like an 80 million pounds and 90 million pounds, which I don't think anyone is going to pay. And I feel like this is a good deterrent for Italian clubs. As we know, they're hard negotiators. They don't want to overpay for players. They want the most for their players. It's very difficult to try and get anyone out of Serie A because of this reason. There's a lot of players that haven't made their moves to Europe purely because of that. You know, AC Milan being the prime example, they're not willing to budge on their money for Big Mike. They also lost out to Teo Hernandez to another team. He's now secured that 25 million euros to Saudi because they're willing to pay it. And that kind of speaks volumes, right? We know that Saudi is there to kind of boost players' price tags up so these clubs can secure as much as they can. And fair enough, the game's the game. So I feel like this is a good message to the Italian clubs of like, okay, if you want a player, you want our player, we don't want to sell him, you're going to have to pay our prices. We're not going to reduce it to make you happy because it doesn't work the other way. And that's fair. That's fair. Chelsea aren't being taken for mugs, and I respect that. So it'd just be very interesting to know what Chelsea's actual price tag would be that they're happy to listen to offers for. If they're not willing to listen to 40 million, fair enough, I respect it. It's an £8 million profit, and to be fair, yeah, I understand why they wouldn't listen to that. But is it 50? Is it 60? Is it 70 plus? Be very interested to know what that price tag is. I'm very curious to know your thoughts. Would you still look to sell Nicolas Jackson this season? Would you listen to £40 million if you were working for Chelsea's board, or was there a certain price tag that you would have as a limit of what you're willing to listen to? Let me know that price down below in the comments and let me know your thoughts on Nicolas Jackson. Do you still back him? Do you want him to be sold this summer? Very curious to know your thoughts. Kieran Gill has reported that when news broke last week that Chelsea was still interested in Garnacho, hashtag no to Garnacho was trending on X. Chelsea's higher up will not take notice of social media hashtags, but they do take character into account when they're assessing signings. Now, I absolutely love this. I love this because this means that Chelsea's higher-ups are constantly watching social media reactions to things, right? And I quite like that. I think that's quite funny, you know, that they're all head of a multi-billion-pound corporation and they watch what fans are saying and talking about when it comes to new signings or current players. I respect it to a degree, but at some point you kind of go, hang on a minute, you're being employed to do a job. You're going to do that job regardless, right? As long as your higher-ups and the people around you and the team that you're working with agree with something, you're going to make that decision. But I did find it funny that I saw a lot of people start tweeting No to Garnacho. Fair. I've been made it very public. I'm not a fan of Garnacho. I wouldn't want him in a Chelsea shirt. But I just find it hilarious that Chelsea have now addressed this. And they're like, we don't care about hashtags. We do assess character. We're kind of going into potential signings. It's not something we're going to overlook, because clearly one of the no to Garnacho themes was his attitude, the way he could disrupt the dressing room. And I even mentioned it in, I think it was yesterday's video or the day before. He could disrupt the sort of team building, the bonding, the settled state of our squad. Potentially. Some people in the comments made very good suggestions saying we've got Enzo Fernandez, who's a fellow Argentine, who's a World Cup winner, who's got the experience. He's been at Chelsea, you know what it's like to play there. He knows how things go on. He could use him as a fellow countryman to kind of settle in and kind of understand how things are done and what is the do's and don'ts essentially at Chelsea. So that is actually a very viable option in that sense. However, as a player, purely on the technical point, yes, he's got a high ceiling, he's got bags of potential. I just don't see how that improves our left-hand side other than the fact that we don't have anyone. If you're putting him up against another left winger that we had, I'd much rather Sancho than Garnacho personally. And we don't have anyone on the left-hand side other than two right wingers that can play on the left. And if you're going to compare it to that, then yes, he's an upgrade. But considering we've got going after Jamie Gittens, we're still interested in Malik Fofana, Nusa was spoken about. I'd much rather those than Garnacho personally. But I just found this very quite funny that the higher-ups are basically saying we're not going to pay attention to social media responses, but we are going to look at the social media responses from the fans. So they're going to monitor it and see what people are saying, but they're not going to listen to it. So it seems a bit backwards, but hey, that's just my thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Are you still no to Garnacho? Put the hashtag no to Garnacho in the comments if you are. I think that's hilarious. And what are your thoughts of the Chelsea higher-ups actually looking at socials and looking at fan sort of reactions to news? I find that quite curious. I think that's probably good due diligence to have, but then to come out and say we're going to ignore what you're saying is a bit daft in my opinion. But very curious to know your thoughts. Kieran Gill then goes on to report that if Jamie Gittens' deal cannot be done, then Garnacho and Malik Fofana remain on Chelsea's winger shortlist. And again, Fofana over Garnacho for me, all day long. All day long. Yes, Garnacho is young. He's 20 years old, 3 years Premier League experience, won some trophies with United, played in finals, played in big games. I get it. Very inconsistent still. And is that the system he's in? Is it the team? Is it the behind the scenes? Is it the whole amalgamation of things or not? Because when we saw Sancho come to Chelsea, a lot of people were saying, he's a troublemaker, he's got poor attitude, and he was nothing but a professional at Chelsea. So is there an element of it's just Man United being toxic from the inside out? I don't know. However, I just think Malik Fofana is more of an exciting player. I feel like he had a better season than Garnacho last season. Again, whether that's because of the team contributions or not, I don't know, but I'd much rather Malik Fofana over Garnacho if that is on the shortlist. However, we will speak about Jamie Gittens in just a second, but I feel like the Jamie Gittens deal is going to go over the line. It's very imminent. We've got some more information on that in this video. So the interesting thing is there seem to be the main three wingers on the shortlist. Garnacho, Malik Fofana and Gittens is a priority. What I would ideally like Chelsea to do is to secure Gittens and still then look at these two wingers of Garnacho and Fofana. Ideally, I'd say no to Garnacho, but they are clearly going to go down that route and see what it's going to cost and see what it's going to take. I would much rather reinforce that left-hand side. So you've got Tyreek George, Gittens, and another player. And I pray it's Malik Fofana out of these two, right? Because what a left-hand side you'd have, that would actually take us into the season with a very strong left and right side. Because on the right, you've got Esteval, Neto, and Madueke, all playing on their strongest sides, right? And then on the left-hand side, you'd have Tyreek George, you'd have Fofana, and you'd have Gittens. That is insane, in my opinion, in terms of exciting potential, the pace, the way they play in the Enzo Maresca style system, and it gives us enough rotation on either side, and a lot of these right wingers can play on the left as well. So it even covers injuries as well. I think that is a very stacked, having three in each position is perfect. When you look at all the Chelsea teams that have done well and competed across competitions historically, we've had three players in each position, which sounds like a lot, but obviously you do have injuries, you do have rotations, and you need a depth in squad to be able to compete across all these competitions. Our midfield definitely has that, right? You could probably question Cole Palmer's position in the 10, who you're going to play there if it's not Cole Palmer. Currently, it's someone like Nkunku. You could play Enzo Fernandez in that role. Esteval wants to play centrally. You could play him in that role, and we still have two on the right-hand side. So I feel like you could play Santos in that role as well. We have options across the midfield. It's just the wide areas that really do need improving, especially at left-hand side. Because like I said, if you go get two of your three in the shortlist, your left-hand side is very strong. Your right-hand side is very strong. Our midfield completely is unbelievable. Up front, you've got Delap, Jackson, Guiu. So you've got 3 in that position as well, which I think is good to go into the season with. Ideally, we'd like someone other than Jackson, right? I think that is a general consensus across most fans of, if we could, you would replace Jackson for someone else. However, after seeing what Delap is doing, I feel like Delap will be the starter number 9. I feel very confident he's going to have a good season, and then Jackson as the rotation. Unless, again, behind the scenes, whoever is higher in the pecking order due to form and due to how they're training, I think that's fair play. And then Guiu's there for experience to pick up minutes. He will be played in other competitions too, which we all want to see. We want to see Guiu improve. He's got such raw talent. He's impressive. We just want to see him get more minutes. So 3 players in each position is an ideal world. It doesn't always go that way, obviously, but that is an ideal world. So I'm hoping that they can get the Gittens deal over the line. You've got Garnacho and you've got Fofana on that shortlist, and out of those, you then go get someone like Fofana, and then that left-hand side is super strong in my opinion with Tyreek George, Malik Fofana, and Jamie Gittens. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you feel like 3 players in each position makes for a perfect squad in terms of depth and rotation for an entire season when you have all these games to play? Out of these 2 on this shortlist, minus Jamie Gittens, because we're about to speak about him, out of Garnacho and Fofana, who would you choose? And then finally, Plettigol have reported new and positive negotiations have taken place in the last few hours between Dortmund and Chelsea regarding Jamie Gittens. There is still no agreement or final decision, and Dortmund continue to demand £55 million. Now, like I said in yesterday's video, it is imminent. This deal is going to happen by the looks of it. It's very, very close to being finalised and done. Gittens has agreed the 7-year contract, personal terms with Chelsea. He wants the Chelsea move. He's not denied, but he's turned out away any Bayern Munich interest. He wants the Chelsea move. Amazing. We want players that want to play for our club. Very excited of the player of Jamie Gittens' skill set, potential, and what he can do already on a pitch, and his experience of playing Champions League football. I'm excited to see him play for Chelsea, right? The one thing I'm hoping Chelsea don't do is fold to the £55 million, because do I think Gittens is worth £55 million? I don't. I don't think anything over 50. I think you're overpaying. I think 50 is a push. All right, personally, and that's just me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, as always. But the reason I don't want Chelsea to settle for £55 million is purely because before the Club World Cup started, the reason we walked away is because we didn't want to pay the £55 million. Now, Dortmund know that we want Gittens. They know that Gittens wants the move. They also know that Bayern Munich are also interested. So Dortmund feel like they're in a position where they go, well, if you're not going to pay £55 million, I'm sure Bayern Munich will. And if Bayern Munich pay it, you haven't got your player anymore, which then sets a precedent of like, we're not going to budge on our money again, on our transfer fee again, which is very frustrating. I get it, and I feel like all clubs should be doing this. No one should be taken for a ride. I totally feel like no one should be taken for a ride, and there should be a fair market value, right? And over the years, Chelsea have overpaid for players. We've paid £45 million for Disassi. Like, come on. We've overpaid £35 million for Badiashile, which actually, to be fair, at the moment, and the way he's been in 2025, is starting to look a bit more value for money because he has been relatively solid, and you can see the improvements on him. I think there is a player in there, if I'm being honest. And for someone who's publicly criticised him a lot, to have that turning point, I think says a lot. And like I say, I'm trying to be balanced. Credit where it's due. But in regards to Gittens, £55 million, I think is Chelsea overpaying because we walked away before the Club World Cup negotiations for that exact reason. What do I think is fair? I would say £45 million, 50 at a push, maybe 45 that goes up to 50, or maybe 52 with add-ons. Because add-ons, I don't mind. They still have to be achieved. They still have to be hit for the player or for the team, on the receiving end to get them. It's the same thing with the Mudryk case, right? That's now up in arms because I believe it's around 25 to 30 million pounds. Chelsea no longer have to pay to Shakhtar because of the whole ongoing ban thing. So that's all up in arms, which means Chelsea could potentially terminate a contract and save 30 million plus because of the add-ons that haven't been hit. And I feel like that's where it can help both teams on either side when you're selling a player. Whether it's sell-on clauses, whether it's buyback clauses, whatever it may be. And I feel in this position, if we were to finalise this deal for around 45, 48 million with add-ons that takes it just over 50, I'd be happy. Or even if it was 50 with 5 million on add-ons and the add-ons are achievable, because if they're achievable and they're done, then I'm more than happy to pay for a player that's worth that price by doing their add-ons, right? And I feel like a lot, and it's not our money, but I feel like a lot of fans are the same. Let's say, for example, you said to Delap, it's £30 million, but you get X amount of millions paid to you if you get 25 plus league goals in a season. I'm pretty sure Chelsea fans would be more than happy to pay him the money if he goes and bags us 25 league goals. Of course you would. You'd be like, yeah, whatever, pay the man. He scored us 25 league goals. And I feel like it's the same with a lot of players if they've got add-ons built in. I just hope that Chelsea just don't go for a flat all-in £55 million. Let's just get the deal done, because then that completely undoes all of the good things they did before the Club World Cup, where they said we're not going to rush into this and pay the Club World Cup tax. We're going to come back and renegotiate this when we don't have to pay this tax. So I'm hoping that Chelsea can reduce it. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Do you think Jamie Gittens is worth £55 million? Do you understand, or do you agree with what I'm saying in terms of like maybe paying 45 plus the add-ons? Or do you feel like Jamie Gittens is worth less than 50? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on his value and how much you think Chelsea are going to pay. And do you think it's a good idea that Chelsea pay the 55 like they were pre-Club World Cup? Or do you feel like they should dig their heels in and try and get it for a lesser fee? Very curious to know your thoughts. And that's all of that is Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported. I love having a conversation with you down in the comments. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. And secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.